Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. WNBA action here on a Thursday. Got 3 games on the slate for you. Getting this video out a little bit late, obviously, but do have some game picks from all 3 of these things. Up still 4.04 point units on the young WNBA season, so we'll keep rolling along here. Doing a lot better with the sides and totals, I'm not going to lie. Didn't have a chance to look at too many player props today, so we do have 3 bets that are sides and totals, but I'm going to get into all 3 games, project a few of what I see here with the matchups as well. Quick reminder that we do have the NBA live stream coming up on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern before Game 4. Hopefully we'll have a Game 5, but we'll take a look at all that stuff in the live stream, plus the projections and picks video that I'll be putting out tonight on Thursday in preparation for that game on Friday. So make sure you check that out and subscribe to the page. For now, let's jump right into the W. First game we're talking about here, Seattle is in Dallas, taking on the Wings, who have been struggling. There's no other way to put it right now. While they have been pretty good in terms of rebounding, they're playing at a fast pace. Everything else is really not clicking right now for the Dallas Wings, who have lost a number of, I believe, 5 in a row now for this team. 7 of 9 that they've lost since Natasha Howard went down in the second game of the season as well. So some struggles right now for Dallas, and they are taking on this Storm team who has been really, really good, especially on defense. That defensive rating up to 2nd best in the league. They're actually playing even faster than the Dallas Wings are, as they are enjoying getting out into transition with guards like Diggins Smith and company, and Jewel Lloyd, who are just pushing the pace because they know that they have the best spacing and guard play against most of these teams that they're going to come up against in the entire league. And they've also been really good down low, rebounding as well, getting some really good participation from pretty much everybody. Really nice rotation right now for the Storm as they bring on a ton of guys and gals off the bench that can also rebound and also run the floor as well. The defensive effective field goal percentage is huge for them because they're limiting threes, which allows them to really bring their sort of forwards and centers up a little bit and dominate the paint as well, because they can bring pressure at the high point of attack for their against the opponent, which really leads to them just getting out into transition off of those turnovers and things of that nature, which will probably be a problem for Dallas in this one. So first bet here is for Seattle to win this thing by 6, but with all the pace that I think that is going to be in this game, also like an over at 161 in this one, which has been bet up about 1 point. It opened at about 160, so not much movement on the total there. But like I said, this Dallas team is struggling without Natasha Howard right now. Lost 7 of 9 in that span here. And really what's obviously a big problem as a result, not much down low presence. They have the worst paint defense in the league and are allowing a ton of second chance points as a result of their inability to both defend the paint and to limit rebounds for the other team right here on defense. They've been attacking the offensive glass pretty well for the Storm, for the Wings, but the Storm are limiting that as well. And they're getting down into the paint and scoring a ton for Seattle. 3rd most points in the paint in the league. Also really good inside about 5 feet or so. So really close to the basket and a little bit away from it as well. Really going to be able to dominate against this Wings defense. And for Dallas, they rely on those points in the paint a ton, 1st in the league at it. But the Storm, middle of the pack, 7th in terms of limiting that stuff. So that's a part of why I do think we're going to get a good amount of points in this game. The free throw disparity as well. The Storm, pretty good at limiting it, but I think that the Wings should be headed to the free throw line a good amount here. The way that this Storm team doesn't really defend the paint as well as you might like for a potential title contender. But like I said, as far as the Storm winning this game, they're going to be able to get out into the break. They're going to get second chance points galore. If you look at the way that the Dallas Wings here defend the fast break, not very good at all. They're 3rd worst in terms of allowing fast break points, which is going to be a huge problem against this Storm team. And the Storm are 4th in terms of scoring second chance points. So getting those offensive boards, continuing the possession, and then scoring off of that. 4th best versus this Dallas team, which is in the bottom half of the league there as well. 3rd worst in terms of the second chance points that they allow. So despite a pretty good rebound percentage overall for the Wings, you're going to see that be a lot more on offense, where I think the Storm will struggle to limit their second chance points as well. Even though they've been pretty good on the season, this is going to be an area of emphasis for Dallas. So while I like Dallas to be able to help push this thing over 161, I don't think they're going to be able to cover that 6 points. So we're taking the Storm on the spread and the over on the total. Next game up is a battle between two teams that are struggling. Let's just put it that way. Atlanta has a decent start to the season and then really has not been much of anything, especially because they can't score. Over the course of the last 3 or 4 games, handed the Mystics their first win of the season recently, which we called that one as well. They're taking on this Fever team, which is equally as anemic on offense. Obviously, if Caitlin Clark isn't hitting a ton of threes, this Fever squad has struggles to score, like, basically, I would say 70 points a lot at this point, which has been something that they have not done as consistently as you might like from a team that thought they might have a bit more on offense this season, but Clark not necessarily just enough to carry them with her 3-point shooting, unless she really goes bananas, which I'm not really projecting here against Atlanta. The defensive rating for the Fever, awful. We know that everything for them is going to be about, can they outscore the other team? That's really the only time that they win. I don't think they're going to be able to get that amount of points up against this Atlanta team who really only does one thing well, which is limit your ability to shoot well, right? They get out on the shooters. Everybody's really well rested because most of the players on this dream team play about 15 to 25 minutes max. Like, that's pretty much everybody, with a pretty deep rotation of about 9 players that come onto the floor for Atlanta throughout the game. So with that in mind, like, their defense should stay up to the level of aggression that it's been at. The rebounding, bad for both teams, but they're both equally as bad in key areas, right? Like, offensively, Atlanta not very good, but the Fever equally as poor on defense. Defensively for Atlanta, really good. But that's the only thing that Indiana can do pretty well, is shoot the ball. Obviously, 5th best in the offensive effective field goal percentage for the Fever. But with the Atlanta defense as good as it is at limiting points and limiting open shots for the other team, not sure the Fever are going to have much luck getting open shots in this one. So rather than pick a side in this one, I'm just going with the total. It's been bet up a ton, from 159.5 to 165.5. However, I just don't think that's accurate. I think we've now gotten to a point where we can go back down under 165.5 in this one. Like I was saying, it's a fairly even matchup in most key areas of the game, especially if you look at some of those sort of miscellaneous stats, as they're called on the advanced stats page there. 9th for Atlanta in terms of their points off of turnovers, and 10th in second chance points. So they're not getting these easy buckets by getting steals and getting out into transition. They're really not stealing the ball very often at all. They just play sort of a ho-hum, tight-knit defense that they hope at least they can limit the other team, because they know that their offense is not capable of outscoring teams that put up a high total. That comes in the form of the second chance points, points off of turnovers, no real fast break points for Atlanta. They're really happy to just get the defensive rebound, go down and run a pretty slow-paced offense, as you saw from the last slide a second ago. And for Indy, it's kind of the same concept here. Now, they play a little bit faster than the Dream do, and they do rely on offense to try to outscore the other team rather than being able to limit what the other team wants to do on offense. But they're not really going to be having any advantages over the Dream in some of these key areas, like points off of turnovers, second chance points. Like, all the things that they do well for the Fever are what the Dream defend well as well, right? Is what I'm trying to say here. So if you look at the Indy offense, it does rely on second chance points, 5th most, but Atlanta limits the second chance points to the tune of the 5th least in the league. Atlanta also limits fast break points, 2nd fewest allowed. They limit points in the paint, 3rd fewest allowed. So everything that they do is about being like a really in control team that doesn't make errors and isn't sloppy, which is why they also limit points off of turnovers. Everything Indy wants to do, a few points in the paint, get out into transition and run, that's not going to be available for them against this Dream squad that's been good on defense, like really good on defense. We should be very clear, just equally as bad and probably worse actually on offense, which is why I do like the under in this game, regardless of the fact that everybody in the country apparently bet this thing up to 165.5. I think we got it to a good place to now go under. Final game on the slate here should be a pretty good one, except for the Brittany Griner injury, which really ruins the opportunity to have a pretty nice heavyweight fight here between the Aces and the Mercury. The Aces are 5.5-point favorites on the road here, with a really high total up at 170.5. For the Aces, this is why, right? Like, these two teams play at a pretty fast pace. The Aces at the second one. This is why you see this total up higher than almost any total that we've seen on the season so far. Not very many 170 totals or more that we've been given here from the books. This one, you kind of have to assume that it's that high for a reason. And I believe in it. I mean, the offensive rating is better for both teams. If Griner was in, we might see this down a couple points as well, because of the fact that the Aces do pretty well down low and get a good amount of points from there, they also are going to be shooting a ton of threes, right? So I think that's a lot of what we're going to see here is 3-pointers and whether or not they go in, which is kind of why I'm not going to be touching the total here. I would say that this would be a lot more even of a matchup if Brittney Griner was in to be able to help out down low. But without her, it does seem like the Aces are in a good spot to be able to take this one. Rather than touch the total, though, I am just going to go with the Aces because of the Griner injury. Like, Phoenix looked much different with Griner on the floor. We saw her dominate in their last game, which was a nice 9-point victory, or 7-point victory, rather, against Dallas. That not necessarily going to be the case here without Griner against the Aces. With her back out, and it's a little bit precautionary, we should say. She just came back from missing a month, so it's not like this is supposed to be a prolonged injury for Griner. But we've already seen in 2 games how much she impacts this Phoenix Mercury team, which looked pretty bad, I'll be honest, before those last 2 games and has definitely picked things back up. But without Griner in there, we should see the Aces able to dominate a lot more down low. Pretty obvious statement there, which means they'll probably be getting a good amount of free throws. On top of that, the 3-pointers should be available because both these teams shoot a ton of threes. They're basically the top 3 for both of them in terms of 3-pointers made and attempted, but they're both the worst 2 3-point defenses, allowing the most threes in the league, bottom 2 for both these squads. So there should be a good amount of points with the threes that we'll see. The Aces, however, can get out on shooters a little bit more, knowing that Phoenix is going to struggle to score down low without Griner, right? They're 10th in the league, 3rd fewest points in the paint for the Phoenix Mercury. So if the Aces decide they want to sell out on the 3-point line, they should have some success being able to limit the threes a lot better than Phoenix, who really can't afford to just go out and just sell out entirely on the perimeter with the way that the Aces can drive to the hole and the amount of assists that they get as well. If the Aces get this Phoenix team imbalanced on defense, we should see them able to score a ton. Plus Phoenix, I mean, look, they have been a very good defense against the fast break, limiting transition points for the opponent. However, the Aces are a different beast now with what they're going to be throwing at Phoenix. They're going to be bigger in a lot of positions, including, which is going to be huge for the fast break because they're going to be able to get to the rim fairly easily as long as they push things and keep the tempo pretty high, which I expect them to do. I see this game right at about 167, 168 total. So it's not necessarily an over for me on the 170, but I do think that the Aces are able to pull this one out and cover the 5.5-point spread. And that is all the time that I have for you in the W for Thursday. Definitely want to make sure to subscribe to that page and also check out Outlier. I've got a link in the description of the video that takes you right to a nice little 7-day link that'll take you to a 7-day free trial if you want to go ahead and use Outlier. That's what we're using on the live streams every day. So definitely want to jump in there and check it out. At least get the free trial for yourself and see if it's something that helps you as much as it's been helping me and everybody that's in the Discord, which is the other quick shout out that I'll give you guys. If you want to jump into that Discord, got a lot of really good bettors in there, growing that thing up to almost 1,000 folks in there after about a couple months of having this thing live. So obviously people are getting a lot of good angles, especially in that WNBA channel, man. There are a lot of good looks. Shout out my guy Street Cred, who's been bringing some good stuff, and Jew Boogie. A lot of good looks in there from everybody. So the link of the description is in the description of the video as well for the Discord. I'll be back here with an NBA projections and picks video for Game 4, as well as that live stream on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, as we'll get some more bets. You bring your bets, jump in the comments, and we go over that stuff together. So continue to follow along, and until I see you next, happy betting.